Hey, it's Ashleigh here, and welcome to another episode in my Kitchen Reno series. So in today's episode, I am going to be sharing how I transformed my kitchen walls. Absolutely love them. So let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so today I'm gonna start doing the board and batten wall. So I'm saying I'm gonna start because first I'm gonna find my studs, and I am going to tape those to see how far apart they should be. I think there should be like 16 or 18 inches apart. I don't remember, or maybe it might be 12. I don't know, but we're gonna see. So I'm gonna start this today. So I'm gonna do the board and batten around the kitchen, except for my one little area that is gonna be like our mud room when we walk in, because we don't actually have an area for a mud room, but I'm gonna turn that into a cute little mud room area. So right when you walk in from the garage. So let me go ahead and get started. This should be a fairly easy project. Okay, so the first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna start with this wall. So I have my tape, and I also have my, it's not focusing right now, but this is my little Black & Decker, hold on, let me see, what, come on. Yeah, there we go. My Black & Decker stud finder. So let's start. Okay, so I'm gonna talk to you guys about this because I did like 2 different methods on how to put this on the walls, like to figure out the spacing for your walls, basically. So the one thing was, finding your studs. So I was, of course, using my stud finder to do that. And then I just felt like the studs, like the placement, it just wasn't making sense. So it's like, this is not working. And it was like really close together. This Black & Decker thing does work really good though, but it was just weird in this kitchen. So then after that, as you can see, I'm like measuring the wall, and then I'm literally doing the calculations. So this was the second method. So they said to measure the wall, and then you want to take the part of so if you're doing like a 2x3 or a 1x2, like you take that measurement and you subtract it or divide it or something like that. So I'm doing all of this stuff, and I'm like, this is just too much. I'm not doing all that. And my main concern was we have these vents at the bottom. So I didn't want any of my boards to be on there. So I literally just came up with this 18-inch spacing that was going to be perfect because it was going to be missing my vents. And also the windows, it was going to look perfect on that. So just do not stress yourself out about that particular part. Okay, so the next thing I did was I started to cut my MDF. So I got a sheet of MDF from Home Depot. I'll put this exact sheet that I got down below. It only cost about $50, and I got a lot of different boards from this. So I would say probably about 16 or 17 boards. So at first I was cutting all of this by myself, but then when it got a little bit smaller, I used some Mel's assistance, and we started to cut down the second sheet that I had, and this was really easy to do. So after all of those sheets were cut, this is what they looked like, the remainder of the sheets that I needed. And then I just literally taped them up onto my wall to kind of make sure that, okay, Ashleigh, this is what you really want your space to look like. And I was like, yes, even though it looked brown, I knew it was gonna look really, really good. Okay, so then I started to work on my quote-unquote trim pieces. So I got these 1x2s, and I placed them up on the tops and the bottoms. So what I then did was I sanded all of these down nice and smooth, and then I came back in with my primer. So if you want to go a more inexpensive route, these are perfect to use because they only cost $1 and something a piece. You just have to, of course, do a little bit more work. So I sanded and I primed all of the ones that I had, and then after that I puttied up any of the little imperfections that was on the wood, and I let that dry and of course sanded it down. Okay, so after all the prep, it was time to add these to the wall. So I cut them, the end pieces, at a 45-degree cut, so that when I attach the other one, it'll have this nice seamless transition. So I also, of course, used my level to help me with this, and also my hubby. And if you can get 2 people to do this, especially if you're doing it at the top part, it will help out tremendously. So I'm just gonna show here where it's cut out. It just matches up just like that. I mean, you can just keep them straight if you want to, it's no big deal, but it's just really easy to just do a slant or do an angle cut and put it up like that. because it just literally, they just attach together really well. And if you have like jagged edges and stuff, you can sand those down before you actually nail it to your wall, and then you putty those areas up. So as you can see, we're going around the whole kitchen because everything is about to be floor to ceiling board and batten. This part I was super excited about because I'm like, I'm that much closer to getting this done. All right, so then I started to prime my 1x3s, which are actually 2.5 inches, to be honest. So anyways, this is what I'm gonna share this really quick because y'all know I love to use my bin primer all the time. So what I do most of the time is I will literally put my roller in here, and then I just let it just sit in there overnight because it's not gonna harden or anything, because we know how if you use shellac based stuff or this bin primer, you know how it does. So then I just take the glove, because I pop the glove in the center and take it out and there's no paint in there, and then all I do is pop it back onto my roller brush, and then I am ready to paint. So the next thing I did after that, of course, was I started to prime my MDF pieces. So again, if you want to go the more inexpensive route, you're gonna have to do just a little bit more work. So I'm just gonna go ahead and prime these pieces because I did not get any pre-prime pieces. And this is just really easy to do. I probably did about 2 coats on all of them, and then I came back and I started to work on the bottom portion. So honestly, doing the bottom part was easier than doing the top, so you could definitely do this with one person. You could do it with the top with one person too, but it might be a little bit more difficult. But I just went ahead and I nailed these down. So on this side, I had to do like a strange cut for where the oven part was, and then the other parts were just like 45-degree cuts, and I was good to go. So after I nailed down all of my quote-unquote trim pieces at the bottom so that my wood would be flush from the top to the bottom, I then brought those pieces in and I marked them where they needed to be cut on the miter saw. And then as you can see, I created my 18-inch spacer, so that's just going to be very easy for me to pop it on the wall so that I can make sure that all my pieces are 18 inches apart. And I took my level and I made sure everything was nice and level before I started to nail these to the wall. So you can also use wood glue to do this. I didn't though. So if you don't hit a stud, you can just put your nails in diagonally, so one on the right, one on the left, and that'll help out a lot. So I went around, did all the wall. So this wall was 18 inches. So my other walls, the wall by my laundry room and the wall like kind of right here too, and then also that wall with the other door where my garage is, those weren't exactly 18 inches. They might have been like a 3/4 of an inch off, a half an inch, but as long as it visually looked like they were spaced, you will be good to go. So don't stress yourself out about that if you are doing this type of project. So after this was done, the next thing that I did, of course, was I started to putty up all of my nail holes that I had, and then I let those dry. After I let those dry, I then started to caulk the sides of this. So caulking is like one of the next level, like, so the number one thing, of course, is putting your nail holes, but this is like the second most, should be number one thing, is to caulk, because it will just make your project look nice and finished. It will cover in all of those seams. So as I'm showing here, you can see like where this area is not caulked, but then when you caulk it, it like just gives it a nice clean and finished look. So this is a step that you never want to not do in any type of project like this. So after I caulked everything, I came back in with my sander and I started to sand everything smooth because I felt that I had some rough edges. So this was really easy to do. Again, it's kind of time consuming, but this is something that you want to do if you want to get a nice professional look. Then after that, I just wiped everything down so I can get it ready for me to start to paint over this. So to paint, funny story, I literally was using the wrong paint, y'all. I was using our ceiling paint and it was like a flat finish, and I was like, why does this look like this? Like, this is supposed to be eggshell, and it was because I was using the wrong paint. So I had to go and get like a gallon of paint, and that gallon of paint, I was able to do my like the whole wall basically, because I literally just had to do the new boards that I put on there. and of course the sides of them, because the paint was basically the same paint that was already on our wall, which was eggshell. And I did eggshell because my kids always have stuff on the walls and it's just really easy to wipe it clean when you have eggshell walls. So that is what I chose to do as a finish for the walls in the house. So another thing I did is, of course, this side of the wall, I turned it into like a mud room type of wall. So it's like a mudroom wall. So I added these hooks that I got from Hobby Lobby a long time ago. I actually used them in a project from a while back. And I took those off and I used them here. And then I also used these. And I just alternated between the two because I was like, you know, it can be like a little bit of a different thing to do. So I just added those to the wall. Then the next thing I did is we had this old alarm system that they had in here. So I just took it off the wall, I puttied up the larger holes, and then I used my fiber tape to do the bigger hole. And then I just placed my putty on top of it, let it dry, and I sanded it down nice and smooth and then painted it. All right, and that is it. That is all I did to transform this space. I absolutely love how this turned out. The kitchen now has just so much dimension and depth. It's amazing. Just plain blank walls. So I had this idea in my head, I brought it into fruition, and it looks amazing. I love this. I knew that the floor to ceiling board in Batten was going to look so good in here, especially around the whole room. This is a really easy project to do. I hope I gave you a good idea of something that you can do in any space in your home, and that you enjoyed this video. As always, make sure you give this video a big thumbs up and comment down below to let me know what you think, and I will see you in my next one. Bye.